Hey guys, what's up? This is my very first interview on YouTube, actually hosting an interview, and I'm very excited to have today's guests, which are Trash Pandas Wholesale or Trash Pandas United, whichever one you guys want to go by. But they are wholesalers. This is Bethany and Sean, and I'm super excited to have you guys on today. I have a ton of questions for you. Some are my own questions, and some are questions from my viewers because, I briefly mention wholesale every now and then, and I know it's kind of new to the reselling world in a way, at least to me and my viewers, and we're just all really interested in it. So I'm excited to ask you guys that today. So let's just start with, if you guys could just introduce yourselves a little bit. You guys can take turns answering, or whoever feels more capable for each of these questions too.
Sure. Good.
Cool. I'm Bethany.
I'm Sean.
Yeah, and together we are Trash Pandas United, and together we run Trash Pandas Wholesale.
Yeah. Sounds like a Shark Tank pitch. But yeah, we wholesale clothing to people around the country, stores, and other resellers is mainly who we work with.
And how did you guys get into business together? Like, who started the wholesale business first?
Well, the wholesale business started as a reselling business. So we were reselling together for a while before we got into wholesale together. I had a reselling business for 3.5, 4 years. He joined me like a year and a half in. And then about a year ago, we started the wholesale side of our business. We went full-time recently.
Okay. So you guys basically started the wholesale together at the same time then?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was my idea.
It was.
It was my big brain idea.
All right. Well, tell everybody what wholesale is, because according to its definition online, you guys definitely fit that. But as far as, like, in your own words, a definition for the reseller community, what is wholesaler in terms of the reseller community?
So wholesaling in terms of reselling is basically buying low and being able to sell also low while making a profit to either resellers or to stores. So the goal in wholesale, and I guess the definition of it cumulatively, would be to buy something at a cost that you can afford to sell at a low cost as well, so that everybody wins.
Okay. And what did you guys do before wholesaling? You mentioned you were reselling. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we ran our reselling business up until a few months ago, almost entirely full time, even though we've been wholesaling for maybe a year. Yeah, a year. Before that, we had selling accounts on all the platforms: eBay, Poshmark, Depop, Mercari, Facebook Marketplace even. And we ran that for a few years together.
Yeah. We were mainly selling, our two biggest platforms were eBay and Depop. Poshmark was our third, and then Facebook Marketplace and Mercari were kind of like the little cheerleaders in the background. But we were doing reselling together for 2.5 years. And we were at a point where we were listing 55 a day. We had a VA and 1 employee, and our store was about 4,000 items. And we were shipping I am the main shipper in both businesses, the reselling and the wholesale. And we were shipping about 150 every 3 days. That was about average of what we were shipping, not including the wholesale part of it towards the past year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely have a thing to learn from you too on Depop, because I kind of did the same thing where I listed on like every platform when, the cross posting tools came available, and I went wild, and then I kind of had to scale back a little bit. And so now I've scaled back to mostly just eBay and Poshmark, but occasionally I, get a wild hair and send some stuff over to Depop, but I got to pick your brain about that later, because I haven't been as successful over there as I would have liked.
Depop is a different beast for sure.
Yeah, it is.
I saw they just added offers on there, so I was really excited about that.
Yeah, I liked that. I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
That really helped the platform.
So what made you guys switch your business to wholesaling? Sean, you said it was your idea. So what kind of prompted that, especially when you guys were already reselling?
So it's kind of a two-pronged approach, or two main reasons why. Number one was actually because we were planning on moving, and we were going to be moving to a bigger city. And with 4,000 items in our store, listing 55 a day, just the amount of items that were being, we had it all in our house. We had a 2,500 square foot house with a 2-car garage. And it was packed with clothes. It was an eBay house. Photography on the first floor. We had like everything everywhere. So
did you guys have a bedroom?
Yes, we had the second floor specifically and only for living, and the first floor was specifically for the business and the kitchen. That's it.
You would have protested if you didn't have anywhere to sleep. Like, that was the only thing I couldn't touch. I had things under the bed at a certain point, but not anymore.
No, not anymore. But yeah, so we were listing a lot. We had a lot of items in the store, and we were shipping a ton. We were working literally, no joke, and this goes out to all of the resellers out there. We were working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single day for about 4 to 5 months. Obviously, you don't have to do that. I don't necessarily suggest that, but that's just what we were doing because we were trying to grow our business. We were trying to make more money. And the thing that we were seeing, which leads into our second point, is that we were grossing between $25,000 and $30,000 a month, but we were netting maybe $11,000, $12,000, $13,000 a month, which for us, obviously that's amazing. That's an awesome thing to be able to do while having employees and having a VA. But we felt like it was just all of that work for, I mean, that's almost less than, I'm really bad at math, but I think it's like 30% profit after all is said and done. If it's 30,000, we're doing 10,000, it's 33%. So it's maybe close to 40% of the profit that we were actually making. So we were thinking about different ways to change it up. And I had the genius idea because we were a little bit wholesaling to one store in New York, our first client, AUH2O. But that was mainly just for like extra money. It was buy, sell, trade stuff. We would do buy, sell, trade stores as well here and there to make some extra money. And we were selling to her as well because she is a buy, sell, trade store. Yeah. And I had the idea. I said, well, why don't we try to see what we can do with other stores and other resellers? And that was the impetus of that idea.
That's awesome. So talk to me about kind of the progression of that business since you decided to make that decision with, you know, you were reselling at the same time, you decided to start wholesale. Talk to me about the progression of that up until now.
Yeah, I think it was certainly hard to juggle both. Hard is probably not the word. It was almost impossible on it. I mean, that's why we worked every single day for a few months. One, to move. We recently moved out to California, and to be able to do a cross-country move like that, we had to switch over. But like, you can't just completely give up on what was my baby. Like, our reselling business was my baby, like, for so many years, and it was something like I couldn't really let go of for a long time. Like, I can't. Like, I'm getting all of these beautiful items, and I never had a problem with sharing them. I love to wholesale because I love seeing other people's reactions when they saw all these amazing items that they could sell too. But getting rid of our own stores was that like final step that like I almost couldn't do until when I knew we had to. So for a while we just struggled. And then we just kind of sat down together. We knew it was the right time, and we had to like move to the next step and what was like our right move for our business, you know?
Yeah. And we're also, to the progression of it, it went from juggling both to eventually taking onboarding 1 or 2 clients. And then eventually we had a conversation with you, and things started working out well with you. And then from there, we kept onboarding. And then we just overworked ourselves. So we had to do what businesses do, raise prices. Some people dropped off. And then we've been kind of sticking around. Right now, we're at 7 to 9 clients. We work with 7 full-time that we ship out to every single week. And we have 2 that are variable, maybe twice a month or once a month. So that is kind of like the progression of how that worked out.
Okay, awesome. I'm hearing a theme here, which is you guys are very hardworking, but you don't know when to step back.
I do.
That's a problem.
I totally get it. I
think all of us have that. I think if you love reselling, I think we all have that universal problem of always wanting to do more, to like have more, to sell more, to buy more. We might all just have a shopping addiction and a selling addiction. It all just like fuels it into itself, you know. But that's what I love about what we do, because what you put into it gives back in wholesale and in reselling. That's never changed, you know.
Yeah, I think everybody can relate to that, either overworking, either in reselling and kind of spinning your wheels all the time, because when you're doing it as a business and it's like your only source of income, you feel like you have to. But I think people can also relate to that when they're trying to move from part-time to full-time, and maybe they're working a job somewhere else at the same time. So it really is a grind, and I don't think I don't think people really think about it when they get into it. So I can definitely appreciate all of that. So how do you feel about it now, Bethany, that you've settled in, you let go of your baby? Are you still feeling that little bit of regret a little bit?
No, it's not regret. I think eventually we might get I want a little store up and running, not my main focus at all, not something I would like to consistently list it every day and treat like I would like it was a business, but something just to have so my creative mind can be happy. But my ultimate goal and why I loved reselling is I want a brick and mortar store one day. So I think that's why I miss selling individual pieces, because I always loved curating for people,
Yeah. You guys mentioned 7 full-time clients and then 2 part-time clients. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. And are you guys still taking on clients? Because that is one of the biggest questions that I get from people. I mean, seriously, I have people coming up to me who recognize me in public asking me those questions because, again, wholesale.
Oh, no.
So it's very unfortunate because right now we have it's just the 2 of us and we have 1 employee who helps with pictures and flaw checking. We are going to be hiring another person to come in 1 day a week pretty soon, but that's really to help with the current workload. So unfortunately, we're not taking anybody on right now, but we do have a running waiting list. Everyone who does message us, we will get back to you, and if we haven't already, which I think we have gotten back to pretty much everyone. And we do have a running wait list. So when room does open up, we will be taking new people on. But right now, we are sourcing about 1,200 to 1,300 items a week, and we are shipping out about 1,000 of those items a week, which is a lot for 2 people.
I would love to take on everyone. I really would. I think I need him to calm me down and limit me a little bit.
Goals for the future is to potentially take on more clients as you guys get better staffed.
To be completely honest, I think what we're planning on doing is hiring 1 full-time person. So not one, we'll have 1 full-time person who'll be working maybe 40 hours a week. And we currently have someone doing part-time. So ideally that's where we'd like to get. And with that, we could probably add maybe 1 person, maybe 2 people. But people do, I mean, we've had in the past 6 months, we've had 2 people drop off, and that might not seems very small, but it does open opportunity for someone to hop on. And we do reach out based on the wait list for people to hop on when that does happen. So
are you guys surprised by the wait list that you have?
A little bit. How do you feel about it?
No, I'm not. I think it's getting harder and harder to source quality inventory everywhere across the country. I think that's a pretty universal experience. Not only what we're trying to find, but at a price that could make it profitable enough to pick up and be a good decision. I think that the number one problem that a lot of people face is, what do I sell? You're showing all these amazing things and I can't get my hands on it. I cannot sell that. And I think that a lot of people think you need to sell a certain type of item in order to make money. And they want those items, even if they can't get it in their area,
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a valid point.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize, and maybe you guys can attest to this a little bit more, but did you guys do any market research when you decided, hey, let's try to sell to other resellers? Did you see really anyone else doing that at the moment, or very few at that rate? Because it just seems like this is the very early stages, or these are the very early stages of wholesaling in the reselling community, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing. And if you guys didn't know, their poor light keeps malfunctioning, so they're doing it in the dark a little bit, nighttime. But it just seems like it is very new, and because of that, not a lot of people are doing what you guys are doing. You're not, you don't see a lot of wholesalers selling to other resellers, and the demand is very high, but there aren't enough wholesalers.
I think there's a reason for that. Yeah.
I will say this. So in terms of market research, we didn't really do much. I think I'm a very logical person, and I've run other businesses in the past. Not anything crazy, but I've done my own entrepreneurial stuff in the past. And the biggest thing that I've always looked for is opportunities that other people are not taking advantage of. And I think that a lot of resellers cannot wholesale for one reason and one reason only. That's because they want it for themselves. And the same pieces that we will send to somebody that, you know, for example, if we sell a piece for $7 or $6 to one of our clients, that can resell for 35, 50, 60, right? Because that's about, you know, some things go for 30, some things go for 40, some things go for 50. Unless it goes for 75 plus, we won't charge our higher price, which is 15 per item. So sometimes, I mean, I'm sure you even see it, you'll get a piece for the price that we charge you that you'll look at, you'll be like, oh, wow, I can't believe this goes for 60 bucks. And a lot of people, when I mention this to other resellers we know, they'd be like, why would you not sell that yourself? And that is where I think the problem lays in for a lot of people wanting to get into wholesale, is that they can't find that balance of wanting to sell it themselves while also profiting enough that they're happy with what they're selling.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
I think it's
both.
hard. I think in order to profit enough that would, like the opportunity cost of just selling it yourself, you need to profit at a certain amount that it makes sense to wholesale, you know, and you need to, we do such a high volume that it does for us.
Right.
And because of the sourcing that we have available to us, it makes sense for us.
Right.
It always did, just because of where we were, like geographically, and the types of pieces that we picked up, because we source everything. And I think you need to be willing to source everything in order to wholesale. Like everything I don't like, everything I don't even want to sell: men's clothing, kids clothing, women's clothing, anything. You know, it's not just things that we like anymore, you know?
Yeah. You have to be willing to take the emotional hit of selling something for a lot less than what can actually sell for. And you also have to know that the profit margins are really, really, really high on wholesaling, significantly higher than eBay or Depop or other platforms. Because if you're selling on eBay, you've got that 10 to 15% to start fee. Then sometimes you promote, then sometimes you give discounts, et cetera, right? So a $30 item, if you have, let's just say 20% overall, including everything fee, that turns into $24 going into your pocket. If you buy something for $5 or $6 and you sell it for 25, I mean, you sell it for 30 and you make 24, you've made $24 in profit. Our business model, we base it basically on, we buy items for 60 to 80 cents a piece. We sell anywhere at the lowest end of the people that we work with is $3.50 a piece. At the highest end, it could be $50 or $100 if it's a very high end piece. But typically about $6 to $7.50 is where we go in that kind of range. And 60 cents into $6 or $7.50 with no fees but a processing fee when you pull out from PayPal is significantly higher if you can do the value. It's just very, very, very volume based, and it's a lot of work, but it's really profitable.
You know, I think people are going to be extremely surprised to hear you say that. And I'm going to dig into that a little bit more with you guys, because that is one of the bigger questions I get is, how do you guys make money? But it definitely seems like, just as a whole, from the outside looking in, it's kind of the, you know, debate of, do I, you know, it's the volume seller is kind of what it is, or, you know, do I want to sell things at a smaller profit, but a lot of it, or do I want to, you know, keep as much profits for myself, but things don't move as quickly? And I think resellers can relate to that a little bit. You also brought up a good point, and maybe this is also too the reason that you don't see a lot of wholesalers out there quite yet. And I do personally think that this market is going to start booming, because I know from my own experience that people are starting to want to get into it. People are starting to educate other people about how to get into it and share their experience. But the same way you said that, you know, resellers can only find so much in their area. I mean, that is true. You can be an expert reseller in one city, but if, you know, you're only traveling the radius of that city, there's only so many items you can get, even if you know exactly what to get. And the same is true for a wholesaler. You know, you can only get as much as you can within your own radius. And I do think that we'll start to see some competition, I guess, a little bit with that as more wholesalers come on board.
Gotta work hard though. I gotta say that wholesaling, I mean, I think that they're equally as difficult in their own respects. When it comes to reselling, there's picturing, there's listing, there's responding to messages, there's sending offers, there's inventory systems, there's SKUs, there's all those smaller things. With wholesaling, it's shipping hundreds of items a week. It's sourcing hundreds of items a week. It's either having the connections, or if you're going to a bins, or if you're going to a rag house, it's the ability to know, what can I buy that I can flip that people will actually buy from me? Because if you're buying a bunch of garbage and you're trying to wholesale a bunch of garbage, people are not going to buy your garbage, unfortunately. So you have to know what people want to. But it is a lot of work. But I do think if people were willing to put in the work, I think wholesaling is an amazing opportunity for people who can access cheaper inventory
and are willing to in volume like that. I think it's an extreme volume. Honestly, we were volume sellers when we weren't wholesalers. Yeah. Now I feel like an extreme volume seller, and I think you have to have a stomach for that. We do, because I feel like, I mean, I wouldn't be able to ship it myself. I do not have the stomach for that. He does.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, I can't do that. But you need to be able to mentally process all the items, physically process all the items, sell the items, ship the items. I think that it is a system in itself. I'm interested to see like where in the reselling community this helps, because I think this would help the reselling community so much if we had other businesses like ours that could take on as many clients and really provide such an amazing service to people. I wish there were more people doing this that were able to profitably, and I don't want people to burn themselves out either trying to replicate what we do without seeing the work that goes behind it. Right. I want people to find
sustainable.
Yeah. And like what works for them, what works for your business is what you should be doing. You know, I think that comparison is the thief of joy in everything. And I've fallen victim to that. I think that we all have in the reselling community, in any entrepreneurial world, you know. Yeah. I see all the time, like, I mean, when you're a wholesaler and you see someone sell your item and you sold it to them for $6, they sell it for $100. Wow, I could have priced that for more. But you can't think like that. You have to think like, wow, I really just gave them such an amazing opportunity with that. They're going to be so happy, so grateful, and they're going to come back really, really like just grateful and wanting to continue to work with each other.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, I mean, I have a lot of respect for what you guys do, because I thought I knew how much work you were putting into it, but I feel like this interview has definitely like felt a little heavier weight to that. But remind everybody, I know you said it earlier, but remind everybody how many pieces you are sourcing, you know, presenting to clients, shipping out, you know, you're moving. How many are you moving a week?
So just to give you a whole picture, we are sourcing probably close to 12 to 1,300 items a week. In order to source 12 to 1,300 items a week, we have to touch, I'm not being dramatic, probably close to 10,000 items, if not more. I am not being dramatic. I would invite anyone watching this, if you're out in San Francisco, please come with us and I'll show you what we do a day in the life. We are touching physically, probably close to 10,000 items just to get those 12, 1,300 items. And then we're photographing about 400 to 500 of them a week, which is being sent out in lists to our clients, which Bethany makes the list, and we have a photographer who takes those pictures, and then Bethany will hop in when need be. And then the other ones we're shipping out to clients who receive them. One of them, they just we have a really good relationship with them. They just take what we send them because we know what they like, and they put it into their store. And then the other people, they get the orders and they select what they want from those orders. And then they're able to just let us know a final count, and we charge them for that. And of those that we're shipping out that I am physically packing, it's between 800 and 1,200. I'd say on average about 1,000 a week.
Yeah.
That's a lot of items.
Right.
A lot of items. And it sounds like too, you guys are trying to cater a little bit to your clients. So you're not, you're trying to do what they need as far as offering the items and their business models. And I'm sure different items and sell-through rates and prices and things like that. So I'm sure it is not easy also, you know, keeping track of all of that. And I assume that the places that you guys are going to source are not all of them, at least, probably not most of them, are not like nicely put on hangers. And I assume to get the deals, you got to dig a little bit. Do you guys want to talk about that?
Yeah, we can definitely talk about it. We source, so two main sources that we have. We have the Goodwill outlets, or there's Goodwill outlets, there's Salvation Army outlets. There's wholesale opportunities depending on where you are, where you can buy Gaylords or you can buy pallets, which is part of our business as well.
From local thrift stores, chain thrift stores.
Right. And then we also partner with a couple other resellers through just networking and making conversations and having good relationships. But we'll trade items that we get sometimes from these pallets. So, you know, I mean, we can sell a vintage t-shirt to you, for example, for the price that we sell it to you at. or we can give them one of those and they give us 3 items that we can then sell to you for 3 of those items, if that makes sense. So we have a couple different opportunities, but most of it comes from the good old dig, the grinding.
Yeah, which is my favorite way to source forever. Honestly, it was always my favorite thing to do. But then you do it every day for a while, and it makes you think. Maybe you lose the level a little bit, and then I got it back. So now we're on good terms again. I like it again.
Yes.
We're good.
I feel you on that. Well, I mean, that's a lot of items. I don't know. I just keep thinking about the amount that you're processing. That's crazy.
And now while you're thinking about that, just imagine me, now that you know what I look like, shoving these clothes into a bag and folding it and making it all nice. And like, then I have to like get all the air out. So I'm sitting up there with my elbows, pushing it against the table to get all the air out. Sometimes I have to push it against the wall and like elbow it against the wall, WWE style, to get the air out. Because if you don't get the air out, here's a pro tip for anybody who is wholesaling. If you do not get the air out, and you're sending in any kind of poly bag or something that's not a box, it might burst. And if it bursts, you're going to have clothes everywhere, and good luck getting that $100 priority mail insurance. And good luck explaining to your client why you didn't use the proper bag or why you didn't get the air out, because air bursts. It has happened to me.
That you guys are shipping out. Pro tip, WWE, squeeze the air out of it. Do you guys
squeeze the air out?
I've definitely done that a time or two. I usually have Nikki do that. She loves doing that. Surprisingly, we've actually vacuumed air out of something before.
I was thinking about doing that. I was thinking about doing it. That might be, you might have one up on me on that one.
It doesn't happen very often, but we've had to do it just a couple of times. So it's been interesting.
I know.
Do you need
Sorry about our lighting, everyone.
No. Yeah, you're good. It's fun. I wait for it to go. My viewers like to create drinking games out of stuff, so maybe they'll create a drinking game.
Oh, wow.
When the light turns off and on. So besides getting the air out of stuff, Sean, do you have any other expert shipping tips maybe for a wholesaler? Because you guys are shipping out a lot, and I think not a lot of people know what it's like to ship in bulk. So do you have any tips?
Honestly, this sounds like such a turnaround answer, but you just have to do it a lot. When we first started, it took me half an hour to fit about 15 items into a bag. And we're at a point now where I can get, in about 15 minutes, I can get about 25 items on average into a bag. And it just takes a lot of experimenting. It took us 6 months to find the right bag size for exactly the size of items that we're selling. I do think it also depends on the kind of items you're selling, the bulkiness of those items. Like, you wouldn't think a pleated skirt, for example, takes up a lot of space, but they actually take up more space than a pair of jeans, because a pair of jeans will go flat, but a pleated skirt will have something that kind of like lifts up a little bit because it's pleated. So you kind of just have to do a lot of it, but I would say be patient. Don't triple or quadruple fold. Try to only fold over once, or like double fold. I don't know the right way of saying that. And experiment with what works with the kinds of access that you have to different poly mailers, different size boxes. Experiment with dimensions, because you can save a lot of money depending on the dimensions that you're using and the size and the weight, which is something that I think a lot of wholesalers struggle with, is trying to find that sweet spot, because they're like, well, how can you ship across the country for affordable prices, because it's costing me $40 to ship this, and we're paying $8 to $12 depending on where we're shipping in the country. And it just takes time. You got to find how to do that for yourself,
So I assume it just comes with a lot of trial and error, just like anything else, especially on the dimensions and weight and stuff like that.
For sure. We've spent hundreds of dollars on different size poly mailers. We tried boxes at one point. You just have to experiment and try and plug in different dimensions, plug in different weights, try to keep it where it's consistent to what you're typically shipping out, like for everyone that you wholesale to. And you'll get a good feel of how many items can fit in this bag or box, and then how much it's going to cost to ship that thing. So to ship from California to you, it costs us about $9 to $11. And then to ship from, that was from Austin. Now it's about $11 to $13. So it's about $12.
Still really good.
Right, because we're fitting about 25.
We were just complaining about it too. Like, we're so angry. Like, God, I can't believe we can't ship this for $8.
Yeah. But yeah, you'll get the gist of it. You just have to experiment and try different bags, different boxes.
So I think people might have a hard time kind of envisioning what these packages look like. So I want to reiterate that you guys are shipping in poly mailers, not boxes.
They're like big babies.
But if you had to guess, about how many items do you fit into these? I know you like double or triple bag a poly mailer, but about how many items are you fitting into that poly mailer, just to give the viewers kind of an idea of how many items you're shipping at once and within that dimensional limit?
Yeah. So it is about, on average, 25 items per bag. So that's about what or poly mailer is about what I'm able to fit. Sometimes it's 20 if I'm sending out more jeans or a jacket or some bulky sweaters. And if it's a lot of smaller items like slip dresses, t-shirts, I'm able to fit maybe 35 of those. So I'd say on average about 25.
I think people are going to be amazed that you can ship that many items in one bundle for that price.
I don't think a normal person can.
It takes some work. I got the magic touch. What can I say?
I don't know what he does. And I'm the person who originally started shipping. Like when we had one client, he would just watch me sit on the floor, like hunch over this bag, like stuffing things in it. Like I'm not folding. I'm just trying to get as many in as I can. I'd get like 15, 20 items in there. And these are vintage items that we started with. So they're tiny. They're like little tiny like tops. And I cannot get more than 15, 20 in there. And he just shows up and he's like, I can do it.
I was like, let me see how I can fit this in. Just to let you guys know too, if you can't believe how many items we could fit in there, whenever we travel for less than 10 days, we use one suitcase and we both have at least 5 outfits. So I can fold. I'll take the underwear and stuff it into a crevice. I'll put the socks like in between the lining. I mean, you gotta find it. There's a will, there's a way, you know.
I'm gonna have to have you guys both on for another interview, and I think you guys should bring a bag and like 25 items, because I know people are not gonna believe
it.
Yeah,
I'll live stream it. I got no problem showing how to do it.
Well, that's awesome. And if you guys, as viewers, have any questions about shipping, you can drop them down below and I would be happy to answer those. I might have to ask Bethany and Sean about them, but because they sound like they've really got it down. So you guys are moving a ton of items. You're shipping them out. Can you tell us a little bit about like some of the things that you might do to stay organized, and a little bit like, what does your week look like? Like, what is your day one? Most people start on Monday. You know, where do you guys start? What does your week look like?
Yeah, so we're working 5 days a week now, not 7. We do work through the weekend because that's just what works for us where we source in their hours. So we always have to make our schedule around that. So we're working from, well, we take off Monday, Tuesday. So we're working every day except for that. We source in the morning. We come back to our warehouse unit. We're sorting, we're photographing, we're heat shipping. We're doing everything we have to do that's not sourcing. And every day for those 5 days, we know exactly who needs to go out. I try to stay organized in my sorting, and it doesn't always stay very organized, and he gets very upset. I'm glad you can't see it, and I'm glad we're in the conference room. It's like mountains basically of clothing all kind of stacked flat on top of each other, because that's the only way I could fit all of those items in a week in our warehouse unit, because everything we get in a week we do ship out that week. But on day 5, when I'm accumulating everything and everything's about to leave, I basically have a house that I can't live in because I have too much clothes in it. So yeah, day 5 is the worst, but day 1 through 5, they all look the same until we get to the end of the week.
Yeah.
So you're shipping, or not shipping, you guys are sourcing every day that you work. So you're out there all the time. And we would probably have to talk about this on another interview with you guys, but it sounds like you've made like a ton of connections, and it sounds like you guys, I heard you mention like a bunch of different sources and connecting with people in the area. So I'd love to pick your brain about that sometime, of how you made those connections, because I feel like that's something, a lot of resellers really lack and ask about a lot, as well as staying organized too.
Yeah, I don't think we're the best people to ask about staying organized.
I mean, honestly, I don't have that many mess ups. I always tell him, if I know where it is, then it's organized.
Yeah,
no one else needs to know, unless if I know, then we're good,
It's her inventory process.
There you go. I'm the packing monkey. That's all I do. I just put things in bags. I'm joking.
He's not. I don't boss him around like that.
So Are there any other common problems that you might have as a wholesaler that people just don't think about?
Okay, maybe not a problem, but I think the one thing that affects us a little bit differently than a reselling business is flaws. Because we are sourcing in such bulk, a lot of the items that we get, we have to scrutinize and really look at carefully for flaws. Everything we're bringing in could be flawed. It could not be. It could be new with tax, or it could be something that never should have been donated. And we have to be really, really careful. That's why everything that goes into our warehouse, it does not get shipped out until I look at it and a photographer looks at it. So we're having 2 people look at these items just to make sure that we're not sending things to our clients that we work on a weekly basis, things that they don't think are up to be sellable.
Right.
And if we do, because I mean, we're human, like mistakes happen, of course, you always have to make sure that you fix that. You know, we reimburse people for flaws. It's not like on eBay or Poshmark, you sell an item, they open a case and you made a mistake and this person's so upset, but they might not buy from you again. You know, like it's okay. Like we're having the same people buy from us every week.
Relationships are super important.
Yeah.
With wholesaling, you need solid relationships.
You know, anything that could affect that, we really got to be careful and do our best on our end, especially with like flaws, which is our probably biggest disruptor.
Right.
We have to do our best, you know.
And communication is very important when it comes to wholesaling. It's very different. Obviously, when you're running a reselling business, you need to respond to messages, you need to talk to people, but you're basically one and doneing when you have a conversation with someone on eBay. They buy from you, maybe they ask a couple questions, and they kind of move on with their lives. But I will say that when it comes to wholesaling, you are, hopefully, if you're running it the right way, you're dealing with the same people week after week. Yes. If you're not dealing with the same people week after week, you're probably doing it wrong. You need to have a consistent set of people because that's how you base reliable income off of this wholesale thing that is new to the business, you know, or new to reselling. And you got to be willing to just say, you know what, 20 flawed items came. Here's a full refund for those 20 flawed items, because those 20 flawed items are going to be such a small amount of your income over the course of the career that you're working with that person, right? So let's just say those 20 items cost you $100. What is $100 when you make that back in a quarter of an order? Or if you make that back in, let's just say if you're one person doing wholesale, what if you make that back in one order? Okay, but you're talking about the lifetime value of this relationship. And that is so much more important than flawed items, or if something wasn't up to par, or like I said, if a bag bursts or it gets lost. It's not on the client to take care of that. It is on you to take care of that. eBay, there is no eBay, I dropped it off and it was scanned. There is something happened, and there is no third party. It is all you and it is all your client. It's client facing. You have to just say, whatever we can do to make this work, I'm going to do that, because this relationship building is so important.
That's something I've never really thought about, is that you don't really have a platform to handle that stuff for you. Like, it's directly to you guys. I can say that, you know, at least in our relationship, that I have had nothing but, you know, a good experience with you guys, and you guys always take care of stuff for me. I'm sure, I mean, if any of us were handling the amount of stuff that you guys are handling, I'm sure we would all come out with flaws too. And I'm sure people watching can relate and go, oh yeah, I went to the bins, I came home with 50 items and 10 of them had flaws. Like, you just miss stuff sometimes. So yeah, I could totally see how that would be a big disruptor for you guys as well. Because you're going through that amount of items. So speaking of refunds and, making money, especially over, long-term with a client, one of the biggest questions I get, and if you guys don't mind answering it, or if you do mind, you can let me know. But people always ask, how the heck do you guys make money? Because people can just not seem to fathom how you make money as a wholesaler. And you kind of alluded to it a little bit with the lack of platform fees, but how do you guys make money? Do you have like maybe an example you can give us?
Yeah. So I can give you our numbers. Like, I can tell you how we get there. So everything on a weekly basis, we do between 4,200 and about 4,600. It really depends. We've gotten up to 5K a week when we were working 7 days a week. And the highest I think we ever did was like 5,500 in 1 week, because we were sending you like Magnolia Pearl and stuff like that at a higher
good
amount.
Week.
Yeah, and it was a good week because we had really good items that we were kind of stockpiling for a long time because we knew the move was coming up. But consistently, we do between about 18,000 a month is what I would say is our average income. And based on that, our actual expenses, all in warehouse, sourcing, employee, everything, we spend about $400 to $4,500 a month on that. So of that 18, subtract 4, that's 14. Subtract 4, 5, that's 13,500. So that is our net take home before taxes. So that's our gross income, but that's our net take home, for the business itself. And then you have to subtract about 30. I'm not an accountant. Don't take my word. You have to subtract whatever taxes work for you in your state and whatever works for you. But if you look at what we're actually filing at the end of the year, it would be that 13 to 14 a month. That's going every single month like that. And the way you get to that number is pretty simple. So when you're selling 1,000 items a week, I don't know, I could pull out my calculator what that averages to. If we did 4,500 divided by 1,000 items, comes out to, wow, that was easy math. $4.50 a piece is the actual average of that. And that's because, like I mentioned, we have the low end of $3 people that we send to and the high end of some of those $15 items. Sometimes we sell items for $50 plus, depending on their resale value. So there's a lot of money to be made in reselling, and especially wholesaling. And I would say that for anybody who thinks that that's like a really difficult thing, I would challenge them to say, okay, well, how much are you actually doing gross in your reselling business, and how much are you actually taking home? Because we were doing between $25,000 and $30,000 a month, and yet we were only netting about 12 on a good month, 13 or 14. That's what we were netting on a good month on $30,000 a month. And now we're doing about $18,000 a month, and we're netting more than we were actually making before. So it's, it's a toss up,
And you guys are now also not working as much. Is that right?
Right.
So you're netting more, you're working less. And I don't want to, make light of wholesaling, because I by no means think it's easy, but in terms of how many things you have to handle when you're talking about, answering customer questions, you photoing, you're listing, you're dealing with drop downs and all this stuff.
Right.
It seems like, there's just a lot less tasks, I guess, to juggle. Not to say it's taking less time necessarily.
Right.
But in terms of ease of use, it seems like there are just less tasks and it's easier to focus.
For sure. And I would also say too, that a big thing is like, and this is just being completely transparent, we could easily be making over 20 a month. And I mean easily, meaning if we just worked an extra 2 hours a day or an extra hour and a half, 2 hours a day. It's our choice to scale that back. And that's not to say that wholesale isn't hard, because I think it comes with its own set of challenges, like what you were mentioning. But I would also say that if you can do this the right way, I don't see why a solo reseller, anybody who wants to be reselling and understands clothing, understands, I guess the best way to say it is I think if you're a good reseller, you'll be an amazing wholesaler. I also don't think you can be a good wholesaler without being an amazing reseller. So I think that, I don't know if your audience has tried to tap into this at all, but I do think, like with the friends that we have that are also resellers, not to throw shade, some of them aren't doing amazing in their reseller business. So they said, well, how do I do wholesale? And our answer is crush it in reselling. We did $25,000 to $30,000 a month. You don't have to do that. But if you can do, $8,000, $10,000 a month in sales, I would say you're a pretty good reseller. If you can do $5,000, $6,000 a month in sales consistently every single month, depending on the platform, I'd say you know what you're doing in terms of sourcing, and you understand how that works if you're doing it full time. Part-time is different. I can't relate to that. But as a full-time reseller, you have to make full-time income to call yourself a full-time reseller. And full-time income is not $1,500 a month, not to be throwing shade, but you have to actually know what you're doing. And that gave us the transition ability to do wholesale, because now we know the brands. We know what sells. We don't look up sell-through rate when we're sourcing. Unless it's a brand that we don't know about, we don't look it up while we're sourcing. We know it because we spent so much time.
I know, I was about to say, don't tell her that.
No, what I mean is we spent so much time reselling, and we know these brands so well, and these materials so well, and these styles so well, that we just know it off the top of our head what's going to do well. And then if we need to look something up because we're not sure before we send lists out, Bethany does that research. Yeah. But while you're in the situation sourcing, which is what your main job is as a wholesaler, you can't be sitting there picking up one item and being like, okay, let me look this up. That's what you do when you're reselling. When you're wholesaling, it's value. You got to go. Yeah.
Let me clarify. I think that I think you should look that up. I really do agree with Kaylee's teaching. I do think you should. I think that I personally love sourcing, and I spend a lot of my free time looking that up when I'm not sourcing. I enjoy market research. I enjoy looking everything up. I enjoy researching trends I like sourcing vintage. I like sourcing modern. So in the moment, if I feel like I can sell it to any of our clients, I'm taking it. You know, like when you have that gut feeling after you've been reselling for a while and you feel like you really know what you're doing, I think it's okay in that situation to not completely look up everything. But of course, it's your business. You know, like you do what works for you.
But you can't look at everything in wholesale. You can't.
Yeah, in wholesale, it's different. Like you got to go. Like you got to get as much as you can, and you need to make the most of your time because we just don't. We have not enough time. I wish I had more time and too many items.
Yeah, I mean, I actually agree with Sean in terms of in a perfect world, and honestly, what my goal is for just myself is to eventually get to the point where I don't have to look that much up. But I am still learning. I feel like I'll always be learning. We'll all still be learning.
Yes.
But I feel like I'm just not quite to that point yet. And it honestly takes, I think people think like I'm an expert sourcer. It took me years to like, to even know what I know now, and repetition and doing it all the time. But the goal would be to get to the point where you understand it so much that you don't have to look everything up. And I can really appreciate, and I was just telling you guys this the other day, but I'm starting to get to the point where I'm trusting a lot of the style-based stuff that you're getting. Because before I would, I'd look everything up. I would include brands. Sometimes I would exclude the brand if I wasn't getting results. And, the numbers just weren't lining up. But you would present it in a way that's like, these are the style aesthetics. And I'm like, you know what? That is really trendy right now. And I would start taking risks on things because of the keywords that you were putting in. And once I started taking that risk, stuff started selling like so quickly. I was so surprised. And I told Nikki, I was like, I guess I'm just going to start getting some of the stuff like that I have the good gut feelings about, regardless of research. Because you know your stuff. And I've learned that, and I respect that from you. So I'm definitely taking some more risks on the style-based stuff, and I'm loosening the reins a little bit, but I do feel like it's good, especially for newer resellers, to be really strict on looking stuff up until you get to the point of feeling really good about it.
To agree with your point,
Sure.
I completely agree. I guess my brain is so on wholesale because I don't think a new reseller can do wholesale. I just don't. I think it's extremely difficult to act. I mean, there's a very big difference between doing wholesale and making money as a wholesaler. There's a big difference between going to the gym and picking up a 2-pound weight and doing some curls, like probably what I can do because I'm not very strong, or going to the weight, going to the gym, you see guys curling, like, looking like they're pumping real iron, or however you would say it. I don't know, not a gym bro. But I think that wholesale is just one of those things that you really have to have the eye, and you really have to have the discipline to touch tens of thousands of items a month, so that as soon as you pick something, I can pick up a Lululemon in a bin or a box full of other items, and I can tell you it's Lululemon without looking for the tag, without looking for the logo, because I know what the feel is. And 9 times out of 10, I got it. Sometimes I'm wrong, but 9 times out of 10, I have that. And a lot of people don't have that skill set yet because they haven't practiced it. So it just takes practice. But when you're first starting, I couldn't possibly agree more that learning that is so important. You have to learn all of that and look everything up when you're first starting, because you won't get to a point where you can do it automatically if you haven't first crawled to walk to run.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because as you mentioned, it is very volume based. So you're doing more repetitions of things. And if you don't have that task down perfectly already and how to do it, and then you times that by 1,000 listings a week and you're doing it wrong in the first place, you create a big disaster for yourself. So I completely agree with you on that you do have to be a good reseller first, because you have to understand how to sell to resellers, right? So it makes sense. Back to how in the heck do you guys make money? I think that's a great explanation for people. I think at least with my viewers and from discussing it with some people, I think where they get hung up on how to make money doing it is they aren't thinking of large scale. They're thinking of one by one piece. So they're thinking, okay, you pick an item up for, we actually had this discussion on live the other day and people were like, there's no way. And, they're like, okay, you're picking an item up for $2. You're selling it to someone for $5, let's say. You're making, less taxes just to make it easy math. You're making $3 an item.
Right.
And then we were like, okay, let's say at the very minimum, you could find 10 items an hour while you're sourcing. That's $30 an hour while you are sourcing. And people just seem to really not understand that you could find that amount of items, I guess, in that amount of time. But maybe that's because they're not an expert sourcer yet. Do you guys have anything to say to that?
You have to work backwards. So I have never done the math on this before, but let's say someone wants to make $5,000 a month in gross sales as a wholesaler. So if you do $5,000 a month, and let's say your average sales price to a client is $7, because you have to include when you find the higher stuff. You will find higher end things here and there. You will find lower end things. Let's say even $6. Let's say it's $6 a piece. So you divide 5,000 by 6. That's 833 items a month. Now you divide that by 4. That's 208 items a week. Now you divide that by 5. That is 41 items a day. Now you divide that by an 8-hour workday. Let's just say you're only sourcing for 4 hours. You divide that by 4. That is 10.4 items an hour.
Which is what you started with.
If you can do that, then you will gross $5,000 a month. If your average cost for that 833 items is $833, a dollar a piece, which is actually on the higher end, if you're able to access sources like wholesale opportunities or a Goodwill outlet or a Salvation Army outlet, then you subtract 850 or 5,000 from 850, and you have made 4,150. Let's say you spend another $250 a month in shipping costs and shipping materials, which is really high. I wouldn't say that's even possible, considering we only spend maybe $300 a month. And we're doing crazy volume. That's still $3,900 a month from wholesaling. And you don't have to list. You don't have to necessarily picture every single item. You can probably picture some, or you can do it in a certain way. It just depends on how much work you're willing to put in. It really does. Because how much is the average reseller really making? If we took all of the resellers in the country and we saw what they were actually doing, I would say it's probably around like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month is what most resellers are doing. And they're probably working harder than if they were to do wholesale. It's just wholesale is about the grind of learning how to source appropriately and really keeping your costs low, finding any opportunity to keep your costs low. But if you can, on $5,000 a month, you're netting 3,900. That's 80%, or that's basically 80%. On eBay to do that, or Poshmark, you're not going to net that much.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the reason why we do make money as wholesalers is because honestly, we sell everything that we sold when we were reselling ourselves. We sold everything. I sold things with 100% sell-through. We were top sellers on Depop. We love selling vintage 90s Y2K. We still sold to buy, sell trades at the time. So I still knew how to do that. Everything that we sold to when we were selling ourselves, we still sell now in a different capacity. So we just took what we were doing, multiplied it. And if you know how to sell things of different categories, that is going to be the easiest way to make money as a wholesaler. Yeah. You need to be able to source and sell different types of items to different people, because that will maximize how many items can you pick up an hour. Well, if I'm only looking for things that one person will buy, not as much. The more clients, the more things that you can sell to someone else, the more money you can make.
And you can buy, sell, trade things too. If you do have access to a bins, I remember before we were doing wholesale, we were going to Plato's Closet and we were averaging $3.50, $4 a piece. And we were buying items at that time for about 50 cents a piece. So that was a really high profit with no shipping, no picturing, no nothing. We just sourced it, we picked it up, we dropped it off. They didn't buy 100%, but we got to where they were buying about 70 or 80%. And you're making pretty good money doing that too,
That's awesome. I think that's another misconception, I've gotten from people is, if they sign up with a wholesaler, how do they know that for lack of a better way to say this, how do they know that you're not giving all the good items to one person? But I mean, you guys just said it. You have clients who are looking for different things. They're looking for different categories. Some people like to curate their closet. Maybe you sell to, a brick and mortar store, buy, sell, trade. I mean, there's just a buyer for different categories,
Right. And it's kind of funny too, because people, I'm sure you might get the question too, like, how do I get clients as a wholesaler? You send good stuff, and then you show repeatedly that you can send good stuff. So if what you don't do is you don't send over like Lululemon and good brands and things that people are going to like, and then the next week you send them trash, because they're going to be like, well, what happened? You'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, bad sourcing week. Then you send them good stuff again, and it's inconsistent. You want to really send the cream of the crop with wholesaling, because relationship trust with the people you're working with is so important. So you want to really send good stuff, and you can just message people. I mean, how did we meet you, Kaylee? We messaged you on Instagram. You know what I mean? We just kind of messaged you. We were like, hey, we have these items. And you were like, sure. And that's how we got the first 4 or 5 people that we worked with, and we had no following, no nothing. This is before we even had Trash Pandas United Instagram page. This is just Bethany's account.
Just my personal Instagram. I just said, hey, I'm a random stranger. I got clothes. You like to sell clothes? Yeah. Maybe we can work something out.
Yeah. And it was, at first a lot of rejection. That's just if you're an entrepreneur, there's always going to be rejection. There's always going to be obstacles, always going to be barriers. But, if you reach out to enough people and you actually have a good product and you have something that people will want, they will buy it.
You just have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Well, I am super glad that you guys reach out to me. I mean, you guys have been very influential in my own business and have allowed me to spend less time sourcing. I still source, but now I feel like I get to enjoy sourcing instead of having to really chase numbers and things like that. So I really do appreciate you guys reaching out. And I'm sure for the clients that you do have right now, they're very, very thankful for what you guys do. Just really appreciate that. I want to go back to something you guys started talking about earlier, which is, what are the benefits, would you guys say, or have you personally felt transitioning to wholesaling versus reselling? You already said, you're not having to go through all these extra steps, I guess, but what else for you guys?
Storage. I think the storage for us, we moved to a place where per square feet, you're paying an arm and a leg. And I know it's harder for resellers in higher cost of living areas to store items, to have that type of volume business. And I guess it's kind of like weird that such a high volume business we're able to profit in California or any high cost of living place. But the fact that we're able to move items in every week and get them out every week, we don't have to store as many items. We don't need 1,000, 2,000 square feet, this huge inventory system. Just mountains of clothes, but they go down and they go out at the end of the week. And having such a smaller working space has freed up everything in our head. Having my house back and having no clothes in my house is the biggest blessing I think wholesale has given us. I think that people agree with me.
I do.
That's probably the biggest argument that we've ever had was, why is there this piece of clothing that's not mine on my bed?
Well, it's why am I walking to the living room in the middle of the night and I trip and I almost break my neck over a bin or something,
That's great. Yeah. Storage, I feel like that is a huge plus. I can't even imagine not having. I think I just reached over 8,000 active listing. I can't even imagine having that space back. So that sounds incredible.
We operate all of this out of 245 square feet.
Yeah, a bedroom basically.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I think it's 245 or 255 square feet.
Yeah.
So really, somebody could do this in a guest room, even if they wanted to start wholesaling or something like that, just because items are going in and out. That's awesome. So I think you guys have answered most of my viewers' major questions, at least the ones that I've seen frequently recurring. But if you guys do have any other questions for them, I am going to convince them to come back. So you guys can put your questions down below. We'll have them come back and answer some of those for you guys. I think you've really cleared up a lot of misconceptions that people have had. I think that was my biggest takeaway from this interview is just, especially about like, how do you make money? Because people just could not conceptualize how that would even work. Are
Right.
there any other like misconceptions that we haven't talked about today that you guys can think of about wholesaling that you guys wanted to chat about and just let people know about?
I do think just one caveat that I would say, I know I mentioned full-time income versus part-time income and real resellers or, real world resellers making like, $3,000, $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month. I would say that a caveat to that is we do what works best for us. Everybody has a different thing that works best for them. And I guess just my experience and, our shared experience, honestly, of interacting with we have a lot of people we network with that we sell to and that sell back to us. We used to source in a place where there was dozens of resellers that we were friends with at a time. And we openly talked about incomes. We openly talked about sales numbers. We openly talked about a lot of different things and processes. And, I think the financial thing is something a lot of people get hung up on. But I would say in reselling too, it's hard to make money too. Any kind of successful entrepreneurial venture is hard, right? But the important thing is having a process like what you teach, Kaylee, and also just sticking with it over prolonged periods of time, and you will get good at it, right? So I know I said, oh, you got to be a good reseller first to be a good wholesaler. I still completely stand by that, and I always will. But you can do both simultaneously. You can start sourcing a lot and very often, and you can experiment as a wholesaler by picking up dozens of different pieces, reaching out to different people, seeing what they're willing to buy, seeing what's selling, and readjusting that way. It's just hard because you'll lose a lot of money when you're doing value. When you're buying a lot of pieces, you will lose a lot of money first.
Yeah.
So just start something, whether it's reselling or it's wholesaling or any kind of aspect. I mean, people now are doing whatnot shows live at Goodwill outlets, or they're doing whatnot shows live at, bales and boxes where they're saying, oh, I bought this for $1,000. I'm going to do a whatnot show with it. Innovate. Yeah. The beautiful thing about reselling is there's so much innovation and so much opportunity. Just focus on what works for you. And I think that you'll have a really wonderful time doing anything. And also focus on net profit. Don't worry about gross sales. Bethany said something really important, which is comparison is a thief of joy. And I think with reselling, not especially, but as a entrepreneurial thing, people latch on to oh, that was nice. We had light for a second. People latch on to this person did $15,000 in sales, or this person did $30,000 in sales, or this person did X amount. Don't worry about that because you don't know what numbers they're actually doing. I know resellers who are doing $20,000 a month and netting 70 or 80%, much better than us. I know resellers who were doing $20,000 a month and they were netting 10 or 15% because they had employees, they had a warehouse, they were buying for $7 or $8 a piece, or they were in the Pacific Northwest and their cost of good was $10 or $15 a piece. Worry about what works best for you, and just worry about that to the max. Work it as best as you can. Worry about what you're taking home. Don't worry about gross. That's important too, I think. At least in my perspective. Gross is a vanity number, and net is like, can I actually use this money?
If you do this full time, especially if this is how you pay your bills.
For sure.
Yeah, great words of advice. I couldn't agree more. And you guys have, the perfect comparison of that too. When, you were reselling, you switched to wholesaling and you're netting more wholesaling. So I think that's fantastic. And I think it's really good for the reseller community to hear, because I don't think a lot of people think it's possible, but it definitely is possible to make that happen. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to add before we get off of here?
I think we're good.
Nothing else?
I think I'm good.
All right. Well, you guys said you're not currently taking on clients, but if people want to find you, where can they find you, and how do they get onto the wait list if they do? How does that work?
Sure. So you guys can find us at Trash Pandas Wholesale on Instagram. If you DM us, we will send you our email back. Or if you'd like, you can also send us an email at trashpandaswholesale@gmail.com, and we'll respond to you with an application. And you can fill it out, and you'll be put onto the wait list. And thank you for your patience. Hopefully it is not infinite patience.
I'm so sorry if you've been wanting to work with us and we just haven't gotten you off the wait list yet. I said before, I'll say it again, I want to work with everyone. But in a perfect world, we would. And if and when a spot doesn't open up, you will definitely hear from us if we feel like you can be the best fit and we can grow with each other.
For sure.
Well, and you guys, I mean, just talking with you guys today, you want to do things with excellence, and I'm sure that you don't want to take on a client if you can't be excellent for them. And so you're waiting for that moment.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, reach out to them. Go follow them on their Instagram account. Even if you don't want to wholesale with them, just go follow them, show them some love. If you guys have any questions for them or for me, put them down in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Thank you guys so much. And hopefully we'll have you guys back on and see you in the next one. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.